Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to be here today, and I want you to watch this video. It is from Informa Fashion, Informa Markets. We provide events and trade shows all over the world, and here is our head of sustainability, Ben, to talk a little bit about what we're doing.
Hi, it's great to join you today for New York Climate Week. My name is Ben Wielgus. I'm Head of Sustainability for Informa here in London, and I'm joined by Richard Menzies-Gow, who is my boss and Director of Investor Relations. We thought we'd just kind of share with you some of our thoughts on the strategic reasons for sustainability and why this is getting so high on the agenda. And then we'll hand over to the team locally in New York, who will hopefully give you some examples of how this is all working in practice. So Richard, we've got 5 minutes. And I really just would love to get your views on ESG itself, so environmental, social and governance issues. They've been around for a decade, probably 2 decades. Why are they suddenly in vogue?
Well, we could probably spend a day just talking about that, so I'll try and be brief. I mean, I think in simple terms, the impacts of climate change are more apparent than ever. Mm-hmm. So I think we're all living the reality of it a little bit. You can see that from all the weather events that have been happening across the world in the last 6 months or so. So I think there's just a reality to it. I think education awareness is much higher now than it was. I think the younger generation are passionate about it. They're interested and aware of the issues and the challenges, and they want to drive change, which is a great thing. But that is influencing decision makers who are higher up the sort of the value chain. So I think all of those things together are just driving a sort of culmination of activity and momentum around climate change and awareness.
I think definitely. I mean, we've seen this growth in people's interest in sustainability. They feel that it aligns with their personal values a lot more. But what I think has been interesting in our work together for the last 18 months is investors really seem to be getting on board with this as well. Why is that?
Well, I mean, everything we've talked about to start with, I just think awareness, education is higher, the impacts are more apparent. That means there's risk around companies, it's more apparent than ever, and so investors are trying to make judgments and qualify what those risks are for industries and companies. I think, if I'm being cynical, they've also realised that the next generation of customers, the youth of today, as I say, are passionate about this, and they're not going to accept investing in companies and funds that don't have sustainable credentials or a plan to be more sustainable as a business going forward. We find that with our own recruitment with young people. They're very interested in your programs and what you're doing and what we're committed to across the business. So I think investors see this as the future, and if they want to be successful, they have to commit to it. It's a marketing strategy already, but also it's about value and returns, and ultimately already what you're now starting to see, because we've had a long enough period, is those companies that do have real commitment around sustainability also starting to see performance of those companies outperform those companies that aren't committed or don't have a program and aren't acting more sustainably. So there's sort of evidence around returns as well. So all those things together mean it's on the agenda for investors, and they realise they have a powerful position to influence and drive change, and they're part of that.
Yeah, I think my money's in an ethical pension, and what's been wonderful in the last 18 months is that's outperformed all the normal pension schemes, because what we've seen during all the turbulence of the pandemic is that businesses that take sustainability seriously, they're more innovative, they have more loyal customers, they're more resilient, and they're often in markets that have survived that kind of disruption relatively unscathed. So it's quite nice to see we're making money out of this agenda as well.
Always helps.
Yeah. So Richard, obviously the investors and our stakeholders are getting interested in sustainability, but it's such a broad agenda. Environment, social and governance, it touches a lot of topics. How do you explain how we approach this to investors when you meet them?
Well, listen, your good team have really developed lots of programs within the company, but we encapsulate that in what we call Faster Forward, which is really a sort of 5-year plan for us to become a more sustainable business across everything we do, whether it's in our own offices and our own footprint as a business, or whether in our individual businesses and how we interact with customers and create and sell products on our information side, but then specifically, I know today we're talking about our events business. And on that side, I think the natural focus is always, I think, or what dominates is really mainly around environmental impacts. I think that's where, at the moment, there's more focus on that for all the reasons we've talked about, although all the other elements of social equality, justice and governance are equally sort of relevant today. But if you think about the environmental impact, the great interesting thing about our events, I mean, we're definitely focused around delivering the product more and more sustainably, and there's a whole load of activity going on around how we drive to that, whether that's, you know, renewable energy at events, partnering with our venues, working how to reduce waste to reusable stands and other activities. But the really interesting thing I find in our events is the power they have in several ways. I mean, one, just we bring industries together, we connect communities, and we do it super efficiently by creating a platform for people to come together instead of having to have lots of separate meetings and travel to lots of different places to meet customers. They can come very efficiently over a few days and do that. So we really try to maximize, you know, the efficiency of the event from a cost, from a time, and also from a carbon perspective, from a sort of business travel perspective. And then at these events, if we bring the right people together, there's a real power to help those industries find the solutions they need for the sustainable issues in those industries. And they're all very different, whether it be natural products and food, real estate and construction, or indeed fashion, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit in the forum later. So the events, I think, is a very interesting sort of product set for really how much of an impact we can have from a sustainability standpoint.
Yeah, I think events are very much like the old-fashioned marketplace where everybody brings their wares to one place because it's efficient to go around many different
Exactly
places. Right. And then if we can embed sustainability inside that to help those markets become more sustainable, that creates a real value proposition for us. And then going back to what you said right at the start, we need to run those events in an environmentally and socially responsible way to make sure that it's authentic when we talk about sustainability in the industry and sustainability in our markets. We're doing that also in a genuine way. So things like renewable energy,
Absolutely.
recycling, looking at diversity and inclusion of speakers.
Absolutely right.
So tactically on the ground, you know, when we're actually working with events, we've got a few systems to make that happen, haven't we?
We have, and again, you're better to talk about this than me, really. I mean, we've developed a program that we call the Fundamentals, which I think is 12 sort of headline initiatives, and all our events in our portfolio, we are progressively getting to sign up to the Fundamentals, and what that really provides is a baseline for them of where they are today in terms of the event itself being sustainable. And then the 12 sort of elements to the Fundamentals help those events progress over time to become ever more sustainable. And it's amazing once you get this in place how brands want to move faster and faster up that, because it's good for them, it's good for the environment, it's a positive thing to do, and customers want it, and it's a competitive differentiator as well. So kudos to you. I mean, it's your program, and there's huge detail around it, but it's something that really is driving the way forward to run more sustainable events.
I feel like I'm setting you up to compliment our team here. But the Fundamentals, they've been really interesting. I mean, we've got some great people in our team who've developed this, and it was based on the fact that 80% of the audience at a modern trade show expect it to be run sustainably. And about a third will say that they actually maybe don't want to attend or exhibit at a trade show or a conference if it's seen as unsustainable or clashing with the values. So the Fundamentals were meant to be that kind of line in the sand that say people expect a diverse audience. They expect a minimization of plastic-based freebies. They want healthy food. They want renewable energy powering the events. And hopefully in January 2022, we're going to announce that next version where we kind of upgrade the expectations, because since we launched 2 years ago, actually people's expectations have shifted so far that we need to raise our game as well as exhibitors. And we're seeing this across the board, that lots of other exhibition companies are sort of adopting these approaches because we have to provide that minimum standard.
And look, it takes us back to where we started. I just think education, awareness is much higher. You're seeing some of the real impacts. People want to drive faster. And around the desire to move quicker and become more sustainable, there are regulatory coercive forces, whether it's driven by investors or supplier agreements and so on, that are also, for those that don't necessarily have the commitment, that there are requirements if they want to remain well invested, well capitalized, or retain customers. And I think that will only grow as there's more education and more commitment to becoming more sustainable as a business and as an industry.
So that's a perfect segue then to hand back to the team in New York, who will talk to you and the audience about some of the ways this works in practice. So thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you to everybody who joined us today.